All right, we are live. Okay, here we go. Looks like we got some people in here. Just had tried to go live here a few seconds ago, and it looked like it crashed on me, but it looks like we're up and running now. So welcome tonight, guys. This is a special live stream. Tonight we got the contest winners, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, last month posted a video. This channel, Brent0331 YouTube channel, hit 500,000 subscribers. And in honor of that, I reached out to several of my buddies with YouTube channels and wanted to see if they want to throw in on a contest. And the contest, which I'll explain here in a minute, was essentially just a gear contest. They were given a hypothetical mission, and they had to pack accordingly for that mission. So before I go in and start talking about this contest, I want to thank some of the sponsors, some of the sponsor YouTube channels that helped out with this and providing some of the prizes. So starting up there in the top left, you have Grunt Proof. So Randall over at Grunt Proof, make sure you check him out. You got STOKERMATIC right there below him. His is logo. And then you got Renaissance Marine. On the opposite side, you got UW Gear. And then you have Christopher Larsen's channel. You got S&S Training Solutions. And you have Les with Pegasus Tests. Now, I've got a couple of those guys here tonight to help me talk through these winners. So I'll go ahead and introduce who I got on tonight. So first and foremost, no stranger live stream. We got Les with Pegasus Tests. Apparently, he's got a nuclear attack pending. Les, thanks for jumping on tonight, man.
My pleasure. Glad to be here, Brent.
And definitely thank you for helping to sponsor this.
My pleasure again.
Next sponsor we got on tonight, we got John with UW Gear, as well as Alpha Charlie Concepts. John, thanks for jumping on tonight, as well as helping contribute to the prizes.
My pleasure, brother.
And last but not least, he's not a YouTube channel contributor. However, I got my good buddy Chad. Chad was a staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. He's an infantryman, 3 combat tours, and he's no stranger to live stream. And we just thought it'd be a good idea to bring on an old 0369 to help give his 2 cents on this. So that is our panel tonight, guys. And I'm going to open this up. All right. Okay. So let me just say, and first and foremost, that this contest was way bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. I got 31 entries submitted to me via the email that I provided in the contest video. And the whole backstory to this, guys, is I had done a contest similar to this a couple years prior. And I think it was celebrating like 100,000 subscribers or something like that. And that I considered a big success. And I only got like 15 or 20 entries back then also, but it was just me as a judge. And that's how, coincidentally, I met Les. And it was a great idea. Everybody seemed to really like it. Everybody's been begging me for a long time to do another one of these. So we thought it'd be a good idea to reboot this and try again. And like I said, guys, 31 entries. And let me tell you, some of the lessons learned from the previous contest is that I had to put time constraints on stuff because literally I had entries last time that were over an hour long, And, I was sitting there thinking, hey, if I'm a freaking squad leader, if I'm a platoon sergeant or platoon commander, and I'm looking at guys' gear, all right, I'm not going to be standing there for an hour inspecting guys' equipment. It's not going to happen, all right? You got like probably 10 minutes to go through, and I want to see all your essentials and make sure that you got everything that's required for the mission. So, before we even stepped off on this, I gave time constraints. I believe it was like 10 minutes. Like, hey, you got to go through all your gear, show what you got in 10 mics. And everybody that submitted, the 31 people, well, it's technically only 30 because one guy total gag entry. But everybody met the time hacks. And then also threw in the requirement for a reporting of a salute report. And then what else did we have? Salute report. Gear inspection. Oh, and a 360. We wanted to see what your gear looked like on your person. And, guys, everybody that submitted, fantastic. Great job on everybody involved. Obviously, here in America, not everybody can be a winner. Okay, so I had 8 sponsors, and we had 8 winners. I also had some honorable mentions that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. But I want to open the floor to you, specifically Les and John, for your guys' 2 cents, because I know you guys were balls deep in inspecting some of these videos as well.
Yeah, well, this was tough. I mean, everybody put maximum effort forth, and it showed without a doubt. Everybody paid attention to the rules of the contest, and there were no straight up crash and burns where somebody just went way off in left field. So my congrats to all entries because you made this challenging for us.
Yeah, I'll echo what Les said. I mean, A for effort for everybody just putting the effort that they did into them. There was a lot of them that you literally had to like start looking for little tiny nitpicky things to try to decide which one's better, because some of them were just so close together. I mean, it was tough, not gonna lie. It was really tough. It kind of made me wish we had like 30 different prizes to give away, because I had to give something to just about everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a participation trophy. I really do, just because some of the effort that was put in by a lot of these dudes, and you know, they didn't place in this. So I kind of feel bad by that, but at the same time, like, hey, it's how it is, man. There's gonna be a winner. So okay. So let's start going into talking about some of this stuff. So if you guys aren't privy to the contest mission, highly encourage you to go check it out and learn exactly what these guys were up against. Okay, so I gave them a hypothetical mission. Essentially, I painted a hypothetical war that was taking place, and you were part of a infantry squad, and that squad was going to be tasked with conducting reconnaissance in a given AO, and then you were going to be broken off into a 2-man RNS team, and that RNS team was going to be kicked out into a specific area to watch a trail, and they were to observe and report that trail for a total of 3 days. I gave a weather forecast, which is very important. I think I stipulated it was going to be in the like low 30s at night and then low 60s during the day. Okay, and then one of the days it was going to rain. And I did that for a specific reason. I wanted you guys to have cold weather equipment. And I also wanted you to have rain, wet weather gear. Okay. Because if you try to operate in that environment without those two elements, that cold weather gear and that wet weather gear, you're dead. You aren't going to survive. Those wet, cold climates are the worst. And coincidentally, we got Winter Forge training coming up. So I'm rocking the S&S Training Solutions shirt here to plug that, but you kind of learn that stuff up there doing that training package, that Winter Forge training package. It's just an awful conditions to operate in, and that was the big dividing factor in this, right? We wanted to see if guys were going to be adequately prepared to operate in this environment, because it's drastically different. It's not going to be 65 and 70, and sunny outside in this environment. Okay, this was going to be nasty. And that was kind of the make or break for some of the videos. How well prepared were you to deal with those climate considerations? Okay. And I also wanted to add an extra element of the salute report. Okay. So I gave you the enemy. All right. I gave an enemy walking down a trail, and you were to generate a salute report based off what you saw in that short snippet. And I also told you during the order who those guys were, right? I described essentially 2 different forces. And one of those forces was the guerrilla element. So if you, in your salute report, mentioned that they were the, possible DLF, hey, you were tracking, right? You were paying attention during the salute report, during the order. Because I specifically told you that the guerrillas were a certain faction and they dressed a certain way, tan and black and mixed clothing. They were clearly a guerrilla force in that. And one thing I didn't see, which, I'm glad, because I outlined it in the brief, was, hey, this is specific to this scenario, right? Because honestly, what was walking down that trail? It was a bunch of Viet Cong. It was a Viet Cong clip that I used in one of the Vietnam-oriented videos, but I wanted to make them part of this. And I didn't want people reporting that you got freaking Viet Cong going down the trail, right? So I painted them to be something else. So yeah, so that was, for me, I was kind of hoping Doc would jump on, but for me, I was really trying to hone in on like, hey, did you have the gear to survive in this type of environment, to operate effectively in this type of environment? And then B, were you picking up on those small little intricate details that, I was dropping in the order, for you to pick up on? Okay. Because if you just mentioned like, hey, I've got, fire team plus size element moving, which, if that's all you knew, if that's all you could see, okay, I get it. But you were also briefed exactly what you were seeing was walking down that trail. So, in my outlook in voting, your SLU report did play a big role in that. And so I do want to turn it over to the guys, but I also, after you guys get talking, I do want to explain like how the voting was, because this wasn't, we had 8 different judges here. Not everybody had the same votes. So I'll explain that more in detail here in a second. But I want to kick it over to one of you guys while I'm prepping some of my stuff to talk about this.
All right, out of tradition, I'll go ahead and grab that ball. So, one of the first things that I clued in on when I watched the vehicle or the video was the professionalism of the layout. The people who did well had their stuff laid out like very easy. As a patrol leader, somebody coming along to inspect my troops before moving out on a mission, the easier my troops make that job, the easier it goes. And I noticed the people who were the most well organized where, yes, they're pointing out their gear, but you just saw it before they pointed it out. That definitely played a part in it. And another thing for me that really keyed in was how accurate somebody was with their salute report and how well they got into it. I mean, technically, the rules of the contest, you could have been sitting in a room like I am right now and just gone through the motions, and that would have been compliant. But a lot of you went to the trouble of getting undercover, or even saying, yes, you can see my light, but only for filming purposes, things like that. So it really shows the in-depth immersion that people put forth.
No, I would agree with this. That's one of the things that helped make the difference in choosing, because if you got 2 that are like identically good, that might be the one thing that makes you choose one over the other. Just that little extra effort that was put in it to make it, a little bit more realistic, because the person had to actually go out and take the time to set themselves up in that position to record it and everything, which means they had to, like some of them that actually set up their camo nets and had their gear on and everything. It takes time and effort to do. And I think one of the takeaways that people need to see is from doing stuff like this, it's got the benefit of making you go through your gear. You may find stuff as you're doing it that you would like to have if you were really doing it that you don't have, or stuff that you've got that like, maybe I really don't need this. It's a good dry run just in general. And then actually putting it on, and I was glad that Brent had everybody do the 360, because then you got to pack it up and put it on. And it's one thing to lay it all out. It's another thing to put it all on and find out whether it A, actually even jives together and works together, and B, whether or not you can actually move in it. And then further, like I said, just getting out and setting up that actual little mock, LPOP and going through that salute report. It's a good little practical exercise. I think people discount things like that all too often for the practical value of it.
You got anything, Chad? I know you watched a few of the videos.
Yeah, so I was late coming to this, full disclosure. I didn't view everybody's video, but I did view some, and I did view a few and saw some trends that I liked and some that I didn't. Many of you packed handheld saws, for example. I like that. I didn't think of that personally. My thought was it's going to be fall. There's a lot of dead shit on the ground anyway, but a saw is quieter and smaller than an axe. So that's good on you. I learned something from you guys. A lot of you had a lot of electronics, sites and stuff that need batteries. Not really my bag, but if you're willing to hump it, that's cool. Some of you had some ACU stuff. That isn't a good pattern for any environment. Get rid of that shit. It's quite literally the worst pattern ever conceived. You are better off in plain black than ACU. You know, some of you guys had tripwires and flares and warning systems and stuff like that. As a two-man team, you're not going to want to give away your position with any of that stuff. You're going to want the enemy to walk by no matter how close he is and just be as still as possible. There's only two of you. That's just me. That's kind of some of the general thoughts that I have on everything. Overall, great job, though. From what I saw, a lot of enthusiasm. That's a good thing, and looking forward to the conversation.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to talk about how we scored stuff, but I just want to piggyback on what they just said. Like the participation was just amazing. And I mean, there was guys that put in that clearly they did not have all the gear, right? But they wanted to test their gear and see how you know what they had and how they stacked up. So my hat's absolutely off to them. I think there was even a 14 or 15-year-old kid that he had a 1022. That was the only rifle he had. And, you know, he put in a submission. He didn't have all the gear, but he wanted to participate. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff that's motivating. And I was really glad to see. So, oh, hold on. We got Stoker jumping in.
Hell yeah.
What's up, brother?
Come on.
How you doing, man?
I should have probably had all that set up prior to, but whatever.
Well, welcome to the party, brother.
Hell yeah.
All right, guys, we got STOKERMATIC. So he's here. And so we're just kind of catching everybody on to, you know, I was kind of briefing what the mission was. The participation, we had 31 entries. Well, one was a gag, but, you know, 30 entries. And I was just about to start explaining how the contest was judged. So to kind of preface this, guys, so like the last contest that I did, it was all me. You know, I watched all the videos, I went through and, you know, I critiqued everything, and then I put them in order what I thought, you know, 1 through, you know, however many winners I had. This time we had 8 different judges, and I can tell you right now, all 8 judges did not have the same people in the same slots. Now, there was a lot of commonality between all the judges, and there was multiple names that popped up all the time and what order they were in. So the way this contest was judged was, first, if your name popped up on a list, and these lists were 1 through 8, that's all I asked from the guys. 1 through 8, give me your top 8 guys out of all the video entries that you watched. So they racked and stacked them 1 through 8, who they thought was best to 8th the best of who they watched, you know, out of the 30 videos. And I went and I got all 8 lists from the guys. And then I went through and I gave tallies to the people that were on the list. Okay. And coincidentally, once I got done, I had multiple guys that had like 5 tallies, right? So, or excuse me, like 4 tallies. So that means they were on 4 people's lists. So then I had to break it down of those that had like 4, that made 4 lists, you know, where did they place on those lists? And I had to rack and stack them that way and then get an average number on like where they, you know, where they matched up, and then individually rank everybody that way. And once everything was all said and done, I ended up with 8 winners, like hands down. I had one guy that got just as many votes as the 3 people ahead of him. However, he was the last of that number of votes, and that just was enough to push him out of the top 8. So unfortunate. So what I'm going to do right now, guys, is these are honorable mention guys. So these are guys that got votes on one of the judges. Okay, they were racked and stacked somewhere in the list, but they just didn't make the top 8. And we're going to go through those. So I have a total of 16. So I got 8 honorable mentions. Okay, so we're going to go through those guys first, and then we're going to work our way up 8th winner through 1st place winner. Okay, so let me pull this up here. Give me a second. Stoker, if you got anything to throw in, man, go ahead and do that right now.
Yeah, no, I think I mentioned it since I was a little late to the party, but I mean, my goodness, entries. That was phenomenal. And I think it speaks a big, huge volume about the, that you've been able to kind of grow on your channel. And I think ultimately, by, having that sense of dialogue with people, and that's awesome. So again, hats down and hats off to you. Even more so of having so many awesome folks put in a lot of dedicated time and interest is fantastic.
All right, guys. First runner up. Now, again, these are guys that received votes. They were on somebody's list. Now, I'm not going to tell you like whose list they were on and where they were positioned in that list, but they were on somebody's list. They received at least one vote. Okay. And first one is going to be Jason with the Modern Minuteman, and he has his own YouTube channel. So, John, was it you that's friends with this guy?
I've exchanged messages with Jason a few times. We hadn't talked a lot, but we've exchanged a couple of messages. I follow his channel. Yeah.
So he has his own YouTube channel. And honestly, guys, there was a lot of dudes that put in that have their own YouTube channels. And they've had their videos posted in public for the whole month. So I'm gonna post all the links with the exception of one guy who, unfortunately, he's one of our winners, but he specifically requested that he didn't want his video public. So I'm going to honor that. But everybody else, I'm going to post the links, and it's going to be on those guys if they want to take their videos down or not. But I will post those links in the comment section after this live stream is over so that you guys can review all of those videos out there. So this is, but again, this is Jason, Modern Minute Man. He received a vote. He was on somebody's list. All right, stand by. If you guys got anything you want to throw in while I'm transitioning between pictures, by all means. All right, next guy, Azrakoth. I believe that's how you say it. Again, guys, these are honorable mentions. They made a list, but they did not place. All right. This is Dustin. And Dustin, from what I recall, I believe he was in the or he is in the Missouri Militia. And the Missouri Militia guys go up to One Shepherd all the time and train with us with the Alpha Company. And those guys are always great. Great sports, just good people, good folks. They usually play like the Blue Four, and One Shepherd will consist of Op Four for FTXs during at least one of the semesters every year. Let's see. Oh, I remember this next guy. So this next guy is actually a veteran of the first competition. This is Edgar Garcia. Yep, Edgar Garcia. He actually got 3 votes, so he was short 1 vote to make the list. But he was a veteran of the first competition, and he won. I remember he won a T-shirt in the last one. So pretty good setup. So again, you guys will be able to check out all these guys' videos after we're done here. Now, this next one I'm about to put up, these guys actually submitted their entry as a 2-man team. So, the mission was you were part of a 2-man R&S team, and everybody submitted obviously as an individual, which is what was expected. These guys actually were like, hey, we're the 2-man R&S team, and we're going to show all our gear, and what we're taking in our 2-man team. So they submitted it as one, but this is Ham, and unfortunately they didn't quite make it, but they got 4 votes, and they were competing against 3 other guys that made the top 8 that all got 4 votes, and they just happened to have the lower of the 4 votes when in terms of like how they placed on lists, but they were on 4 lists out of the 8, and unfortunately, they just didn't meet the threshold to make the top 8. So that was a good submission, guys. Good job on you.
Just a kudos to those 2 guys because they did do really good.
Yeah.
Very coordinated in their gear, and the fact that their gear sets complemented each other instead of duplicated each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And man, when I was totaling up and I saw that it was going to be, close and that one of them was going to get cut, I was like, man, this sucks. And then, I did all the math and came up with the averages. And I was like, fuck, they got cut. So, but they were good. All right. The next guy, 100% needs a star role in the next Vietnam War flick as a radio operator. So this is Laggy. So Laggy got an honorable mention. 100% though, with those glasses, he needs to be a radio operator in the next Vietnam War flick. Any of you guys have anything for him?
No, you're right on, Brent. I can totally see him being RTO.
And if not a Vietnam War flick, then you need to go to One Shepherd semester before all the 77s are taken away. Or has that already happened?
Still there.
No, still there?
Yep.
All right. All right. Here we go. Stand by. All right. Next honorable mention. We got Protect and Preserve. And this guy definitely has a YouTube channel. So make sure you go over to check him out. I think he's had his video public from the get-go. So his is out there for you guys to see. But he had a pretty good loadout. And honestly, I think he's done some follow-on videos too. Like he was like, hey, this is the gear. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that he was like, hey, this is what I packed in my gear loadout. But, ever since then, I've changed my mind and made some changes. And, here's a follow-on video. So, hey, fucking, that's awesome. And I can't believe, the encouraging, just watching the excitement, some of these dudes have been putting into this stuff. So it's pretty good stuff. Pretty good trash.
They all did a ton of hard work individually to get their stuff put together. So, and it was apparent just I thought and were meticulous about why they chose what they did.
Yeah, and he's in here. I see him. Protect and Preserve. So be sure to check out his YouTube channel, guys. I know he's got one up. All right, next guy also has a YouTube channel, and he's another one that scored kind of high, but didn't make the cut. And that's SH Shit Hits the Fan Hunter, and he's got a YouTube channel, and he's actually a veteran of the first video gear contest. And so he didn't quite make the cut on that one, but he's definitely, you could tell that his not Protect and Preserve, but Persevere. Protect and Persevere. You just corrected me in the chat.
It's okay, but I know you're a Marine.
It's not easy to do this shit. All right. All right. So anyways, SHTF Hunter. But anyways, he's definitely upgraded his kit from the last time he submitted, and he had a good entry, and a lot of the guys, he made at least 3 lists. So this was a tough crowd. This was a crowded field. So I'm telling you guys, to get an honorable mention here is worth kudos for sure. But SHTF Hunter, you guys can go over to his YouTube channel and check it out. And once again, I will post all the links to all of the contestants on this at the end of the live stream in the comment section, pinned comment. So it'll be right there at the top. So that is all of our honorable mentions. So before we get into the top 8, does anybody have anything to say?
Yeah, I would like to give a shout out to Ham. Doing that as a team is hard. When I participated in Brent's first contest, the video I sent in was actually my demo tape to try to get my friends to help me, and we were going to do it as a complete fire team. And then everybody wussed out and had all these different issues and everything. So doing it as a 2-man team is exponentially harder, and good on you guys for that.
Yeah, and I also want to say that I'm putting up just little snapshot pictures. A lot of these guys had some, like, for instance, SHTF Hunter had a gillied up boonie, right? But that's not a boonie he'd be wearing the whole time. That's a boonie that's packed away in his ruck, and then once he gets to his hide, he puts that boonie on, to plus up his camouflage. So there's a lot of stuff like that, guys packing cami nettings and stuff to help build hides, which I'm telling you right now, if you were one of those guys, hey, good fucking on you, because that in my opinion, at least for my list considerations, that was a one of the things I was looking for. Like, what kind of tools are you bringing to the fight to help build your hide, to help facilitate you observing this enemy trail in enemy occupied territory, essentially. So, all right. Anybody else got anything before I start with the winners?
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. So the next 4 guys that I'm going to talk about all made 4 different lists. Okay. So again, there was, so Renaissance Marine had a family emergency come up. So he had to abstain from voting. So there's technically only 7 lists, to be upfront and honest here. But the next 3 guys made 4 of the 7 lists that were submitted for voting entries. Okay. So this is the next highest one. And again, Ham got 4 lists too, but he was the lowest. He scored the lowest of the 4 list entries. Okay. All right. So here we go. The number 8 spot in the gear contest goes to a man named Lawrence Zimmerman.
All right.
It's Lawrence Zimmerman.
Z-Man.
Number 8. And the way these prizes are going to work, guys, is I'm going to individually reach out to the winners one at a time, starting with number 1, working my way down, and asking them what prize they want. All right. So, I'm just throwing an example. If number 1 says, I want the STOKERMATIC swag pack, well, then the STOKERMATIC swag pack is no longer on the list of prizes, and we go on to the next prize.
Smells just as good as it did a month ago.
All right. Does anybody have anything to throw in for Zimmerman before we move on?
No,
Yeah, I like the web gear setup on that one. That was a good one.
All right. Number 7. No, so number 7 is he was a Marine. All right. He's also a one shepherd instructor. So we didn't preclude anybody from putting in for this other than the judges. Okay. So, if you were willing and capable to put in, you could have. Okay. And he's a one shepherd instructor. So
Andy's my XO.
yeah. XO Bravo. So, and I know some people are like, oh, that's bullshit, blah, 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 bias and everything. I'm telling you guys, the votes this guy got mainly, I love you to death, but you didn't make my list. I'm just going to throw that out there. You didn't make my list, man. But there's plenty of other dudes that don't even know you that you made their list. So, but Will, I would have dinged you on some stuff. I'm going to be perfectly blunt with you. But you, my friend, are number 7. So congratulations. So Will, and I forget what his, Thin the Herd. Yeah, Thin the Herd is his YouTube name. So that will be, if you guys are looking for the links after this video, that will be on there. Anybody got anything for Will before I move on?
Well, I thought Will had a real solid entry. Love the throwback to Woody's because M81 is always awesome. And good rifle setup for the mission.
All right. Prepping the next one. Number 6. All right. So number 6 is actually a Swabby dog. And again, I know we're going to get we're biased on this, but I'm telling you guys, and he unfortunately is the one that asked to not have his video released to the public. But I got to tell you, I was pretty impressed with Ralph's entry, being a Navy guy. He was a surface naval warfare officer, and man, I thought it was solid. And he went with like old school Alice with a modern twist. and his gear was pretty squared away. I thought his salute report was pretty good as well. He also said he also did a demonstration of what his kit looked like underneath nods. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good to go. But that was Ralph, Navy guy.
Yeah, his salute report was definitely on.
Yeah, and his actually, I'm gonna have to talk to him, see if he'll upload it to YouTube or something, or just do something to not have his full name in his entry, because he submitted it through like a Google Docs or something.
Right.
And yeah, and then but he did his salute report through like a radio frequency or something, like he put a talk about radio or something. It was over, you could tell it was over a radio, so it sounded really legit. It was pretty cool. So
and that was unique that he checked himself out under nods before stepping off. I thought that was definitely a unique factor that got him onto my list right away.
Yeah, that was a cool consideration that he did. All right, moving on. All right, so I want to give perks to this guy too. He's 5th place, but one of the perks I want to mention for him is he actually put on all his cold weather. So you can tell in all these winners, they had their, they had all their gear laid out. All right, and they essentially had, somebody said AOR2 camouflage. Yes, it's the Navy utility camouflage pattern, which is why I might add, guys, is a superb camouflage. If you haven't seen my camouflage fakeness video featuring that in my environment, fucking AOR2 is a pretty damn good camouflage pattern. So, John, have you? Yeah.
Yeah, I got mine up on AR2 as well. It's legit.
Yeah, it's a good pattern for sure. So, all right. So, anyways, back to our next guy. He's the 5th place winner. And what I was going to say is I want to give him props because, everybody laid out all their gear and showed like, hey, this is what, my gear is. Here's my cold weather stuff. Here's my hot weather stuff. And most people, when they did their 360, they had on, their warmer weather stuff. So it's like when the temps rose to the 60s during the day, this is what I'm beyond. I actually kind of appreciated seeing a lot of the dudes that, had their cold weather shit on, because it gave me a better understanding like how all their cold weather stuff played into consideration. So that's just saying, I'm not saying that was like a disqualifying factor or anything. I'm just saying I appreciated seeing that on the 360 for some of the guys that put in. So the next one, 5th place, is going to be Cap 6888. And I think he might have a YouTube channel. I can't remember. But he was pretty squared away in his entry. And you guys can see, those of you that are history buffs, he's got that Rhodesian camouflage pattern going on his AR there, which is a pretty good touch. And we got anything for Cap?
A lot of mixing of patterns there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I saw several entries where people would have something that didn't fit their main pattern, but that was almost like standing out. He mixed everything and stuff. It'd be interesting to see how that actually worked out in the field.
And I may be wrong on this, but I think Cap might be prior service. Maybe, I don't know. I was getting an officer vibe from him. So, anyways, okay, next one. And I almost disqualified this kid because he had cats and stuff walking around in his video. And I'm like, I'm just not a cat guy, guys. I don't know about you, but I think if you got pussy walking around in the background, it's disqualified.
My dog loves cats.
Would you rather have some?
Not that kind. Starting to get interesting, folks. All right. Give me a second. Let me pull this next guy up. All right. Here we go. Number 4. Now, before I pull this dude up, I don't think he made my list, and I'm not trashing on you, man. He had, in my opinion, he had a lot of excess gear, and I think we're going to talk about like some of the like pros and cons, and what we, the sustains and fixes and stuff. I personally thought he had a little bit too much equipment, but with that said, this dude made 5 lists out of 7. So he was squared away. There's no question. And I don't know if he has any military experience. I don't think he does. I think this is just a regular civilian. But his stuff was pretty squared away. I personally downgraded him on my list because I thought he had excess equipment. But again, he made several lists, and yeah, so he was a number 2 spot for somebody. He was a number 3 spot for somebody. He was number 5 on 2 lists, and he was number 6 on somebody's list. But without further ado, here we go. Brian Cotty. This dude actually had a drone. He took a drone. So, and there was pussy walking around in the background. Anybody have anything for Mr. Cotty here? He seemed to be a judge favorite. So,
well, the drone was an interesting choice because with those small drones, our experience in One Shepherd has not been giving the greatest return. Everybody brings them out with great promise and kind of leaves disappointed. So, it's an interesting choice for this mission. Not sure it's one I would have made.
Yeah. So, and that was kind of the thing I was kind of thinking out, because you were tasked with observing a trail, right? A specific portion of the trail, because the rest of the squad was pushed out, presumably. I mean, I didn't go into a full blown freaking order. Like, you didn't know exactly what all the adjacent units around you were doing. But you can pretty much extrapolate from that order, like, hey, there's going to be other R&S teams pushed out in other areas. I'm watching this specific portion of this trail. I personally didn't see the need for the drone. That's where I was kind of getting into, like, hey, this might be excessive gear. So,
well, to compound on that a little bit, just put yourself in the enemy's shoes. If you start hearing a drone, you're going to start looking for that drone operator. And as an R&S team, you don't want to make contact with anybody. You want to be stealthy, silent, hidden. Drone kind of defeats the purpose there.
Right. And it's funny is we had an One Shepherd FTX about a year ago, and that was one thing that happened. Like, the mission was an R&S mission, and the R&S team or squad actually sent up a drone, and the enemy saw the drone. They couldn't find where it went back to, but they did see the drone. So they knew that reconnaissance team was in the area. So anyways, that's my only critique of you, brother. Outside of that, obviously you have a pretty squared away package there. So, anybody else got anything for Okada here? All right, let's move on. Got all right. Moving on. That was 4th place. Moving on to 3rd place.
Getting close.
I know people are hating on me as I'm dragging this out, but like, seriously, I got to click through all these little things to get this damn picture up on the screen. That's why I was wishing old Doc Larsen is here, because he just keep you guys entertained while I pull up these pictures.
Yeah, but we would be an hour away from number 3 if Doc was here.
All right, here we go. So number 3, this guy made, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of 7 lists he made. Number 3 spot goes to Joe D'Amico. And Joe is a One Shepherd student. He's gone to several semesters now. He's probably coming up to be the PL. Or actually, he just did a PL, right?
He was just APL.
Oh, APL. Okay, so his next
did
one
a great job, too.
His next One Shepherd semester, he will be a PL, patrol leader, presumably. But he had a great submission. You guys need to check it out. He actually had a really cool, I think it was his brother filming him. Instead of like the next take sign, they did a Claymore M57 firing device, the clacker. So they're like, take two, clack. It's pretty funny. So, but he had a very well set up, real well planned out. And you know, I was watching a lot of the gear videos, and a lot of these guys approached it the same manner. And I deliberately told, you know, the contestants, and they could have done this either way. They could have posted it public, made it public so it was findable by other people to watch, or they could have left it unlisted and sent it directly to me. And the reason I said for folks to do that is because I didn't want to like people waiting till the last possible minute and getting ideas from other, you know, people that, you know, put in for the contest and, you know, and building off of what their ideas. Right. So that's kind of why I told people to leave them unlisted. But in any event, a lot of, even with the unlisted videos, a lot of the folks had very similar ideas. It was really interesting to see. A lot of folks would do, you know, they pretended it was nighttime. Okay. Or even some of the videos, it was nighttime. Guys were out there underneath ponchos with red lights, you know, calling in their salute reports and stuff. And he was one of those individuals that, you know, mimicked being in a hide and doing that salute report under red lens, whatever the case may be. So, but old Joe. And Joe also, if you guys go to my YouTube channel, I did just a hip pocket class, not even a class, hip pocket video, last possible minute, just for shits and giggles on Joe's web gear at the end of a One Shepherd semester, because I saw that he converted a Alice magazine pouch into an IFAC, and I thought it was a fantastic idea. And I made a quick video of it, and that freaking video got like 70,000 views. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But anyways, I digress, guys. Here's Joe. Anybody got any things for Joe?
Yeah, Joe, your entry was really solid, and I know I drove Joe crazy because just a week or two ago we were out doing some night vision shooting together. He's like, "How'd my video do? How'd my video do?" I'm like, I haven't watched it.
Yeah, he's been probing, but it was
Joe, you
solid,
did a great job, man.
Yeah, it was a pretty solid gig. All right, any other closing? And he's another one that, like, you know, a lot of the people that voted for him didn't even know him, didn't even know he was a One Shepherd guy, but he made many of the lists. So, all right, number 2, guys. So we're down to 2 people. Big 2. First place loser. Who's it gonna be? All right, hold on.
If I had Peg here, I'd have him play flares on the water can, you know, as a drum roll. But
all right, first place loser is another gentleman with a YouTube channel, Citadel Defense. He got 6 votes. So him and Joe D'Amico both got 6 votes. So this is one of those ones that had to come down to, of those 6 votes, where did they place on those 6 votes list? Okay. And he got a 1. So he was number 1 on one guy's list. He got a 3. And then he got 3 6s. So he took the 6th place spot on 3 judges' lists. And then he got number 7 on somebody's list. And then one of the judges didn't vote for him at all. But hey, 6 total votes out of the 7 judge cast lists. And he made it number 2, first place loser. Wow. Citadel Defense. And again, he's got a YouTube channel, guys, so you can actually go over and watch his stuff. I don't know if he's made this particular video public yet. I'm not sure if he held that in reserve or not. But you guys can go over and check that out. So anybody got anything for him?
Yeah, good presentation. I mean, his presentation was rock solid. Watching that, I distinctly remember there was nothing in question, you know, about gear-wise. You knew he had it. He displayed it well. Use of suppressor was a good call. And also another One Shepherd alum, remember working with him in the field, and just a great guy to go out in the woods with.
Anybody else got anything for him before we close it out? All right. Again, he's got a YouTube channel, guys. You can go and check it out. And he said he made it public. So it was public and out there for people to watch. And he's one of those guys that was like, laid out everything. Is like, hey, this is my first line of, equipment, second line, third line. And it's like, I'm watching this stuff and I'm like, damn, man, these guys really, put a lot of thought into this shit. All right. We are down to the first place winner. Now, again, the way the contest works is the first place winner gets his choice of what prize he wants. That could be a UW chest gear, chest rig. That could be a Stoker swag pack. That could be a scope. That could be a whole bunch of stuff. All right. He gets top choice, top pick. Everybody else gets sloppy seconds, thirds, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. So,
what are we talking about? A bar in the PI? Jesus.
Right?
All right, here we go, guys. Number one, the winner of the 500K contest, gear giveaway contest, is.
I
just fucked it up.
Oh, shit.
All right, hold on. Here we go. Chad Edgar.
All right.
Chad Edgar had a fantastic video, guys. You guys got to check him out. And honestly, I think he was the first entry. He was either the first or second entry. I mean, it was one of the first ones I got. And I was blown away. I was like, holy shit. I was like, if this is going to be an indicator of like how these are going to go, this is going to be a really hard contest to judge. Because like this guy's gear, he was one of those dudes that like laid it all out. He was out there with like pointing out, hey, this is my first line equipment, blah, 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 blah. This is worn on the body at, during insertion, blah, blah, blah. Goes on. This is the second line, blah, blah, blah. Third line, it just, goes down. It was super organized, super just well put together. Then he goes outside after, he goes through all his gear, builds a hide. He's in his hide and gives his salute report from the hide. So it was good shit. And I think it was raining too. So completely tied into the whole entire scenario 100%. But again, you guys will have, as soon as this live stream's over, I'm going to post all these links in the comment section. Pinned comment will be right at the top. You guys can go and you guys can check out all these videos. As long as these individuals leave their videos public, you can go and check out all those videos firsthand and see what we're talking about. So, but nonetheless, guys, Chad Edgar got 7 votes. That means he made every single list. He might not have been the number one guy on all the judges' lists, but he was on all the lists. And of those lists, he was high scoring on all of them. So I can't stress enough. He's the only one that made it on all 7 lists. All right. And that could have been like, hey, he was fucking 3rd place on this guy's list. He was 2nd place on this dude's list, 5th place on this guy's list, but he made it on all of them. All of them. All the other guys had at least one where they didn't get on a list. This guy made it on all 7 lists. So that's what propels him to the top. And I can personally vouch, of those 7 lists, he was high scoring on all of them. So anybody, what you got?
Yeah, well, Chad, I mean, that was obvious you have done this before. It was very well laid out. The pacing was excellent. The jung on the bunk was right. And the hide thing was just outstanding. Much like our squid guy who did his review under nods, that was just something unique that just stood out right away.
That dude looks like a freaking Viking.
Kudos for the good beard.
Maybe one of our prizes should have been a battle axe.
He's gonna drink fucking alcohol from a horn. Blood of his enemies. Anyways, Chad Edgar, buddy, you are the number one man. You did a fantastic job. Again, you made it on all 7 lists, and just outstanding. So, anybody else got anybody else have anything for Chad before we close out the winners?
Definitely congratulations. And like you're talking about, not just making it on every list of participants that we all had to choose from, and we're all looking at different things. Chad had the things that each one of us were looking for to be able to 8 out of 30, and then high 8, of that. Congrats, good job. I'll look forward to sending you a flask.
Yeah, he's in here. Hey, congratulations, brother. So I can't stress enough, guys, like the accomplishment of making it on those lists, just like Stoker just said, out of 30 legitimate participants. That's pretty good to go. So, and what I want to tell you guys is, hey, just because you didn't make it on a list, like, doesn't mean you didn't have a good entry. We were all talking, like John and I were talking, like the entries were just fantastic. Most of them are really thought out, good thought out. It's just, we can only pick 8. Okay. So if you didn't make an honorable mention or you didn't make the top 8, like, it's not that you had a bad deal, but there's definitely room for improvement. Right. And like, we as warfighters, we as armed prepared citizens, like, we need to be looking at our gear and our setup and like, hey, how can we improve this? And that never ends. You're never going to be 100% satisfied, because why? Well, the mission's not always going to be the same. The environment's not always going to be the same. Everything always changes. Okay. We want to be the best we can be for a given task in a certain environment, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about this contest as a judge was I got to see different people's takes on solving the same equation. My rig has been set since the 1990s. I mean, if you look at my rig from a One Shepherd video, it looks like I walked out of a Blackhawk advertisement. But you know what? It works and it's solid. And for me to change anything now, it can only be for 2 reasons. One, I broke it, or 2, I saw somebody doing something better. And that's one of the things. I saw a lot of things that caught my interest from a lot of entries here.
Somebody says they want to see the comedy entry. Hey, it'll be posted, and I think I even have in parentheses like, this is the joke one. It was actually pretty funny. His ruck was a stick, a stick with a bag on it, like a friggin' carpetbagger or whatever they call those.
Bobo.
I almost did one more just for shits and giggles, but
all right. So let's start talking now that everybody knows who the winners are. Let's start talking like some of the sustain, some of the good stuff we saw, and then we'll transition into like some of the stuff needs improvement. Some common trends. So,
you guys mind if I kick this off?
Yes. You've been quiet, brother. So go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to be the first to admit I'm a minimalist when it comes to gear. I think too much gear is a burden, and that's quite obvious. We all remember the movie Spaceballs, right? When they crash on the desert planet and they're leaving the ship, what does Lone Star tell Princess Vespa? Take only what you need to survive. Remember that? And what does she do? She acts like a modern American infantryman and takes a whole bunch of shit she doesn't need. So Lone Star's advice is tactically sound. When confronted with a mission, it's necessary to prioritize what you're going to be up against. In the scenario given, you really have 3 primary considerations. I'm talking about this scenario. For an R&S team, priority number 1 is camouflage. Without it, the mission is doomed to fail. You need a good pattern or a combination of camo patterns. Going back, one of the guys had a DPM with multicam bottoms. That may actually work. But you need a good camo pattern that will blend into a background approximately 3 to 4 feet above the ground. You're most likely to be in the prone position a lot for this. I take it from experience. I've had some R&S experience myself in combat. You're going to be in the prone a long time. Okay, this applies not only to uniform, but tarps, ponchos, rucksack covers, weapons, etc. And I think a pattern, most of the patterns I saw were multicam. That would have been my choice too. It's tan-based coloring with some light sporadic greens. Highly effective in forested terrain. Now I'm just going off the pics. Obviously, some early recon of the area or actually physically being there would give you a better picture of terrain. Secondly, the most important consideration is weather. Okay, Brent talked about this and made it a priority in his op-ord. It indicated rain and temperatures just above freezing. Hypothermia is something that has to be considered. The mission of an R&S team is to stay, observe, and report. So you'll be laying down and not moving a lot. You got to stay warm. Cold weather gear is essential. You'll need some type of warming shirt layer, pants layer. If it's thick enough, you can sleep in it. You can leave the sleeping bag in the rear. Don't forget your hands and feet too. Your extremities are be the first things to lose blood and go numb during extreme cold. You want to select a hide that you can waterproof. Maybe something somewhat elevated for water drainage, plenty of concealment. Water brings down your body temp, so you want to stay as dry as possible. And of course, the final and last consideration for an R&S type mission is calm. Your radio is your weapon. Extra batteries, maybe an extra radio might be acceptable. Weaponry is not that important. A two-man R&S team should be avoiding contact altogether. An R&S team should have that guerrilla mentality to avoid everything to do with the enemy outside of your mission objectives. You may want a few frags, as these could slow down a pursuing enemy, but light and fast is the name of the game. You want 3 days of food, water, warming layers, wet weather gear, and that's probably about it. No excessive ammunition, food, water, etc. You need to be light and fast. If you become compromised, you're going to want some speed. Rant over.
Hey, excellent point, Chad. Les just brought up something we need to address. Where is he? What's the name? Scrolling through the Twin Arrows. Okay. So he says, let me highlight this. He says, this should have been more about like modern Minuteman kind of stuff, kind of feel everybody went towards the one shepherd guys and the people who had the most money. So 100% the mission that was briefed, that is what you're oriented to. So if it wasn't pertaining to the mission, I mean, what gear? I mean, the gear you needs to fit that mission. So I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at or where you're coming from. I briefed you that you were part of a specific unit taking part in a specific mission. All right. So it's like if you are wanting something outside of that, like that wasn't what the contest was. That wasn't what the mission that was briefed. So.
Yeah, not only that, this is a type of mission that the modern Minutemen really wouldn't be doing. Guerrillas tended to go out at night, come back at home. They don't go out and do 3-day things, because your average guerrilla, if he's not doing his day job for 3 days, it's going to be noticed. That'll probably get him killed.
I mean, a guerrilla or a Minuteman, if you were in a situation where, it was some sort of like Red Dawn scenario or something like that, you could be conducting some sort of RNS mission. Absolutely. 100%. However, that wasn't the scenario that was briefed. And quite frankly, a lot of this gear would be just as applicable. I mean, John, if you want to jump in on this, like what are your 2 cents on that?
No, it's something that I preach all the time. People think there's this one size fits all, and they're so hesitant to tailor their gear and their loadout for the specific mission. Not everything is a direct action mission. Not everything's a CQB urban door kicking mission. I face this all the time because I focus a lot on my channel on more of similar to what you did, the scenario of like a small alert team where your goal is to not get into a fight. Your goal is to not be found, not be seen. You're gathering information. You need to be light, fast, mobile. That means you're not wearing body armor. You're not taking the same kind of equipment and things that you would take on other missions. So that might be where some people lost in the context of what you laid out. You've got to focus on the mission at hand and what that task is, and take the things that you want for that task, and not take the things that you just want to take or use, but use what's going to be the most effective and applicable for that task and mission. It's not always going to be the same. Your gear is going to be set up differently, loaded out differently. What you pack in your ruck's going to be different. I think Chad brought up a good point earlier. If I'm in a, let's say, an E&E survival scenario, I might want the ability to set up perimeter alarms and tripwires to know if somebody's sneaking in on me. for a reconnaissance type operation, they need to be able to be standing close enough for me to untie their boots and them not know I am there. If I've got alarms set up and stuff around me, they're going to know somebody's somewhere close by. So I take a lot of that from, and some of you guys are probably tired of hearing me repeat it, but my uncle was a LERP in the Rangers in Vietnam. He also did some MACV time. He can tell you stories of being on the exact mission you laid out, face down in the mud, while columns of NVA regulars walked close enough that he could feel their boot as it went by mud in his face, and they had to not be seen, found, or heard. They only carried what they needed for the mission, and it wasn't to go get in a fight. So again, tailoring that stuff for the job at hand, and specifically for your contest, you could have done everything for the contest and not used hardly any money just by showing simulated objects, I would think. Like, you had guys that would show, like, this would be my grenade or whatever. If somebody didn't have a radio, they could have just used something to stand in. This is the radio, as a placeholder, so to speak. It was more about focusing on the right loadout that met the requirements that you laid out, and then presenting the proper, salute report, the information in it, that sort of thing. It wasn't really about spending the money. It's coincidental that some of the guys that placed pretty high, they did have, decent gear, but it wasn't all the same. It wasn't all, equivalent brands or top tier or, whatever you want to call it. I mean, heck, none of the top guys had any of my gear. So,
Cap, you go watch his. He's got like the whole European camouflage military catalog on display, right? And he had a DPM smock and fucking all kinds of stuff from all over the world. None of that stuff was high dollar gear. Plus, I even briefed that you had night vision binoculars, right? So you didn't even have to say like, "Hey, I have a PVS 14. Here it is." Like, I briefed that you had night vision binoculars. You observe the enemy through night vision binoculars. So I don't agree with what that guy says, but I feel like he's in the minority. I think everybody else fully realized that it's pretty squared away. And I would be interested to look through this list and try to determine how many of those guys actually have military experience, because I know for a fact some of those people on there do not. Which says a lot about their individual wanting to learn this stuff. Obviously, they pay attention.
Oh, absolutely. A squared away junk on the bunk tells you a lot about the troop right there. And we've seen it all both in our active duty times and at One Shepherd. The gear bombs tend to be bombs in other ways too. The guy who's literally exploding gear everywhere he walks also is the guy who's discombobulated in his mission orders. He's the guy that doesn't do everything quite right. And as a leader of a unit, he tends to be a problem that eats a significant amount of your time.
So here's the $1 million question for everybody. What would you carry? Open to everybody on this panel. What would be your gear of choice?
Well, let's talk camouflage since you brought that up. So I showed the environment. I actually used the pictures from Grunt Proof's area where we were going to do this SEER challenge, because I was going to go, when this was filmed, the contest was started before I went to the SEER challenge. So I kind of wanted to see like what people were, putting together for his environment, because that's what I was going to go compete in. Right. So I was kind of like probing to see what people thought. So his environment during that time, the ground is pretty brown and tan, but waist and higher, it's more green and brown. Right. Because like the trees still have plenty of green in them, but the ground, like the vegetation, the like grasses and stuff like that have died. Plus you got the brown dirt. So I don't know. I wore the old school M81 Woodland camouflage up there for the SEER challenge, and I felt that it served pretty well. I don't know. Stoker was out there hunting me, so without revealing too much, what did you think in terms of like when you saw me with that M81 woodland camouflage, like in that environment. How did you think that looked?
I mean, M81 works great in most environments. It does do well. You know, I think the truth about camouflage patterns is that based off the orientation and direction of the observer to what they're trying to observe, not limited to other weather variables and terrain station, most patterns don't matter at the end of the day. It is a rare when a uniform pattern itself is going to give you away. I mean, somebody would, and so you're really talking a micro fraction of encounters. Light and noise discipline is going to do better for you than your, camouflage pattern. But going back to M81 and cam and stuff like that, I mean, they all work extremely well in most places. I think unless you are in a place like the Sierra Nevadas, up here in the Pacific Northwest, it sucks. But M81 is a good choice.
And to piggyback on what you're saying, Stoker, is in one Shepherd, when we do the FTX, it's essentially woodland versus OD, right? Just straight OD. And I will tell you, anybody that's been up to one Shepherd that's had to go up against the OPT4 element wearing solid olive green utilities, it's pretty damn impressive.
Absolutely.
And the Marines in World War II had a camouflage uniform. And about midway through the war, it was determined like, hey, wearing the camouflage fatigues that they had, the duck hunter stuff, they were like, it's a good camouflage pattern and it works great when you're stationary. But when you start moving, the standard, fatigues, OD fatigues work better than the camouflage in terms of like catching your eye. So the bulk of the units went back to just wearing the straight olive drab, and that's why the U.S. military had olive drab fatigues all the way into Vietnam as standard issue.
Mm-hmm.
You even see it in Grenada. You still got, I think, Rangers running around with freaking jungle fatigues on.
Yeah.
People seriously
interesting that even in the modern day, the Israelis still use OD.
Yeah, people seriously discount the effectiveness of solid OD, Ranger Green, solid Coyote, etc. I mean, it's like I get people all the time, oh, I don't want to use a desert color in the woods. Well, what defines a color as being a desert color? Just because it's tan and brown doesn't make it a desert color. There's tans and browns all over the freaking swamps where I'm at. Just because you don't necessarily see it doesn't mean it's not there. Maybe you're not seeing it because it's really hard for your eye to pick it up. If you've ever deer hunted in the Southeast and you've deer hunted white-tailed deer, if they're not moving, they can be literally invisible. And what color do they closely represent? Coyote brown, tannish color. I mean, solid Ranger green, OD green, it still works. It doesn't have to be, like Stoker said, movement's going to be your number one giveaway. Movement and shape and shine. The camouflaging aspect of it, whether it be a pattern, solid color, whatever, is to give you that extra little micro edge of someone noticing you when all the other things are covered.
Indeed.
All right, so I think we got camouflage, and I just want to say, like, my competitor at the SEER Challenge was wearing multicam, and that looked phenomenal too. So I'm privy, and I feel like my camouflage pattern was better just because I had an Eagle Globe and Anchor on my left breast pocket, so that automatically takes us to the next level. All right, anyways, moving on. Okay,
is that kind of like having a spoiler with a bunch of stickers on your Honda? You get an extra 5 horsepower per sticker.
Hey now.
Well, I always say that when you wear the freaking OD green silkies, that increased combat effectiveness by 25%.
Now that I do agree with, which is why I've got multiple pair.
All right. So in terms of cold weather gear, right? So this is something that absolutely you had to have in your loadout. If you stepped off in this challenge with just, regular BDU utilities, like you weren't going to survive. No, you needed to have wet weather gear. You needed to have cold weather gear. Okay. So me personally, I was looking for dudes that had some sort of base layer at a minimum, with their utilities. And they definitely needed to have some sort of outer layer. That could have been a Gore-Tex. That could have been other, like the one guy had a DPM British smock. But you definitely needed rain gear in addition to that, because if any of that stuff got wet and that temperature drops down to what it was, you were fucked. So that was something that, and if you guys have any, if you have inquiries about like what you should wear in cold weather, check out, I've done a gear video on like what I'm taking to winter forge. I go through and I outline like, hey, your base layer, mid layer, and all that other stuff for operating in those colder temps. But that was something that I was absolutely looking at, was like, hey, these guys are going to be in these really cold temperatures. Okay. We're not talking like the Arctic or anything, but it's going to drop down into very cold temperatures. Combining that with wet weather, it's a recipe for disaster. It is the cold, wet environment is one of the most dangerous to operate in. So you really had to have gear oriented in that direction. Your standard utilities weren't going to cut it. So,
going back to that comment that we had earlier, I think a lot of the surplus stuff will work just fine. So if you're going into this, Gore-Tex, military issue Gore-Tex, the long underwear, that stuff will work just fine. So if money's an issue, go look for that stuff.
Yeah, watch Randall with Grunt Proof. He tests a lot. The U.S. military stuff, you always hear that token phrase, "Oh, it's the lowest bidder." That may have been. I'm not even going to say that may have been true, because it's always been like good gear for the time, right? The shit I've been issued in the Marine Corps, especially since the GWAT started, fuck guys, it's been solid equipment. So the cold weather stuff, oh my God, you can get cold weather U.S. military gear that its civilian competitor is probably 3, 4, 5 times the price. Like the marshmallow suits and stuff. Like I can't even imagine what the civilian equivalent to that cost. So I don't know, Stoker, you're kind of a bushcrafter guy. Can you speak to that at all?
I mean, more like the guy who pisses off the bushcrafters. So it comes to, especially cold weather gear is a really good example, because people try to approach a mission set like this and they're trying to think their pack out. It's really easy, too much cold weather gear. Not realizing that in extreme cold temperatures, because you're wearing too much and not taking it off, whether it's a lack of experience or just the desire to not get set like this, you have to first, if you can stay dry, you're probably going to be but it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. So in this example, if all you have a base warming layer and an ability to stay dry at night, and that's okay. Being in the prone position for a couple of days, it's going to suck. But as you noted, being able to maintain enough of a core body to become ultimately a hazard to the mission is important. So being able, and when it comes to the cost of equipment, I can't overemphasize enough that down to the REI a few blocks away, I freaking store, because everything is just so freaking expensive. I want to know what kind of jobs all these people have that can go in there and go into debt buying all this stuff. But no, thank you. But I walk down to, right outside of the post, and I go to the couple surf, and there is tons of gear, and you don't have to be by military town to find a surplus store. Or eBay and all kinds of other places online, where if you are strapped, it's okay to work for some used gear like that. There's nothing wrong. In the military was used by somebody before. Like, we're all used to using somebody's old gear and their junk, and it's okay. I mean, you're not maintaining eye contact. It's going to be okay. Get out there and use a little bit and experience it, in a manner that you can, area of embracing the suck a little bit and understanding what you can and what you do need and what. Sorry, it's a PBR.
Anybody else have anything on that point? I just wanted to say about the military stuff too, is it's often tested. And although my unit was never the recipient of it, I know a lot of units, particularly the ones that are on UDPs in Okinawa, often get like the latest and greatest gear that's getting tested and evaluated sent to them so they can test it out in places like the Jungle Warfare Training Center, right? So it's like, I know like all of our packs in the Marine Corps go to out there and get tested and evaluated. And, so by the time it actually gets mass issued to the Marines, it's already been through the ringer with troops, and, it's gotten that feedback. So I'm not going to sit here and say that every single piece of gear I've ever gotten issued, I've absolutely been in love with. 100% not the case. However, they get it right most of the time. So the only thing I can really think of off the top of my head that I just thought was absolute garbage is the Molly 2 pack frame in particular. And the one that replaced it, the LB pack, I think it's LB, the real tall ones, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Freaking, I'm sure that was a fantastic, like, hiking pack for a civilian, right? So if you buy that in a surplus store, like, you can wear it all day long. However, when you're a fucking 0311 or 0331 humping that shit up in the mountains, most of the time you got your goddamn flattened Kevlar on, and it doesn't sit well with your gear. So it ends up being like tilted to one side or the other. And it was just it was ridiculous. However, the Molly 2 was so terrible that when that thing showed up, we were all like, come, daddy, give it to me. And that is why to this day you still see Alice packs floating around in the Marine.
Oh, yeah. Another thing I've always been amazed about military gear is you look at other nations' gear, and they have some good stuff, don't get me wrong, but you are more likely to see a soldier from another nation adding U.S. equipment to his gear. You never see anybody from the U.S. adding foreign gear to ours.
All right, so we talked cold weather, we talked camouflage. I want to hit on boots. So me personally, like in a cold, wet environment, like my opinion is you need Gore-Tex boots. There was one guy that had, I think, tennis shoes, and hats off to him because it was clearly just, like a regular dude. He didn't have all the military gear, but he was putting out an entry together with what he had. So absolutely kudos to that guy. But just, tennis shoes ain't gonna cut it. Or, just regular jungle boots. I know there was a guy that had regular Vietnam style jungle boots. Man, I'm telling you, when it's raining and you're in 30 degrees, you ain't gonna want them Vietnam jungle boots. So
yeah. The only time I could recommend Vietnam jungle boots in the wintertime is if you're in an M113, because the heater inside those things are freaking awesome, and you can dry the things out if you can get back in the vehicle almost instantly. But yeah, otherwise, no. And when I was in the National Guard, we got sent over to a mission in Germany, and we were told about that. Oh yeah, wear your jungle boots and stuff, because when you get in the tracks, they'll dry out instantly. So many guys brought their jungle boots, and within 3 days of getting there, the PX was out of boots because everybody realized that was a bad idea.
Anybody else got any thing about boots?
Tailor it for the environment and the mission. I mean, and if you're gonna wear Gore-Tex boots, especially in a cold weather environment like that, My suggestion is to make sure you have some kind of rain pant and not a poncho, because cold rainwater running down your pants legs, filling up those Gore-Tex boots, the great thing that keeps the water out also keeps that water in. Walking around with boots full of water is a bad thing. Ask me how I know.
Yep. And on that point, that Gore-Tex, doesn't breathe as well as this other stuff. So it's like your feet sweat. Well,
It's
you're gonna need plenty of change of socks as well. Okay, so
eggs.
I want to kick it over to Stoker on this. I've got stuff to add too, and I'm sure you guys also. But most common issues with salute reports that you guys observe. I know Stoker, being a old sergeant's course like an instructor, he was like, "Yeah, these fucking salute reports suck, dick."
I mean, ultimately, I cared about with all the entries, the ability to operate in that. What your job was to report back what you saw. So icicle factor, if somebody had too much water, too much food, a couple extra pounds of gear back in, but can you do your job? Can you complete the mission? And so for me, salute report back was the most important thing. Common things that I saw, and I think I see it in the military as well. When you go to do training and somebody gets on the radio for the very first time, they speak, and it's either because nobody's on the other end, and so they're not thinking about it because you're just working through, or then they first actually get on a radio and they just start talking as quickly. So having your thoughts and your report written down, because now you don't have to think about it, you can read it, and you had to put some thought in because you had time, and it gives you a proper sequence of everything that you need to say. Speaking a little bit slower to ensure that the receiving party can and there was lots of good pros in there of people giving breaks in between their lines, asking on the back end, how they copied. There were a lot of entries that beat their transmission. There were a few folks that ended their transmission, but there were a lot of folks that did neither one. That played a lot of attention to detail on the people who did those things. They entered, they initiated properly, they ended it properly, they talked slow enough so you're saying, and they included some breaks in there just to kind of break up the transmission. A single channel plain text or anything else, it's just a good habit to get into, whether you're cipher text or plain, a little bit of breaks in there, because if you don't, then you're going to become lackadaisical once you are forced to talk plain text. But yeah, that was definitely a big trigger point for really focusing in and listening to the pros and the cons of everybody's reports.
Yeah, as an actual RTO, I will back up what Stoker's saying. People speaking over the radio is not leaving a phone message on someone's answering system. They don't get to just play it back over and over again to figure out what you said. You have to speak slowly, concisely, enunciate what you're saying properly so that go doesn't sound like no, or et cetera, et cetera. Doing it at a speed that the other person can copy it, but at the same time, you don't want to be on the radio for 15 minutes giving a salute report either. So again, ditto what he said, writing it down so you're reading it, and you just read it, line by line, give a break, and clear, concise, to the point. You don't have to worry about passing your English teacher's English composition test. You can, within certain parameters, leave certain words out to get the message done. For adult males, rifles, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to be again, you're not writing a poem or an essay, but you want to get the pertinent information across, and it's
Yeah, talk like a
radio
caveman.
communication. Yeah, you've got to be very precise. Location 1, yada yada yada. Location 2, yada yada. Like that. So, and I even admit I haven't done it in so long that I need all the refreshment on it I can get, which there's ways to do that. Lots of good people out there teaching radio stuff these days.
So my 2 cents is, I went to great lengths to brief in the mission what I wanted to hear in the salute report. Like I gave a specific enemy, like I gave you characteristics of what this enemy was dressed like, what they, their common trends and stuff like that. They're unorganized, what their uniforms look like typically. And I mentioned them by name. So during that salute report, I wanted to see how many people picked up on that. Like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing guys wearing tan uniforms as well as black uniforms and mixed uniforms. And that was briefed as being, I believe, DLF, Turkestani Liberation Front. These were the guerrillas, the guerrilla faction part of that force. So I was looking for that. I wanted to hear that because I know some of the guys just gave like, hey, I think it was 5 adult males walking down, and they didn't go into specificity on what they were looking at. That stuff's important, right? That might not, you might think that that's not important in the small picture, but think bigger picture, right? You got your S2 cats and dogs back in the rear, they're getting all these little salute reports from the front, right? And they're trying to figure this out. Well, all that plays into the bigger picture. Oh shit. Well, now we figured out with all these reports, hey, the enemy, it looks like the enemy's moving a major element through this way. They got their freaking, their guerrillas, moving down these trails, but we got the fucking, these guys, cats and dogs over here, and, this over here. And, some of these guys were real specific on like actually naming the weapon systems. Typically speaking, you're probably not going to have that good of a visual on the enemy where you're going to be like, yeah, I can 100% say that is a Mosin Nagant, and that is an AKM. So, kudos to the guys that were able to do that. They are actually calling out by name what weapon systems they were seeing. Some of the guys didn't know the names of the weapon systems, but they were given the classes, which even that is just as impressive to me. Like, some guys were saying, hey, I'm seeing 2 bolt action rifles, 1 AKM, and 1 light machine gun, right? They didn't know that it was a DPM machine gun or a DP-28. They didn't know that. However, they knew it was a light machine gun, right? They knew the class of weapons. So that was good. I 100% I give kudos to the guys for that. So that's the kind of stuff I was looking for, right? Some guys commented like on their behavior. Hey, these guys are just walking down the trail. Yeah, they're armed. They got rucks, so they're moving, but their security is not there, right? They're not heads on a swivel. So they're feeling pretty relatively comfortable in their environment, that they don't believe that we are there and that there's a threat to them, that they're moving. That's important stuff. And that's stuff that, again, your little S2 cats and dogs in the rear would like to know, because it helps them paint the bigger picture. So, it looks like Chad's got a pop smoke.
Yeah, I got a bail too. So,
oh shit. So, you two have any closing thoughts before you guys pop smoke?
I'm just going to say good enthusiasm on all those videos, at least the ones that I saw. I think I would also encourage others to watch other contestants' videos. You may learn something. I know I did. So,
Absolutely.
Yep, good effort by everybody, whether you made the cut or not. Just the fact that you took the time to try, that's better than, how many subscribers you got now? 500,000. Well, that's 30 people did more than the other, 400 and some odd thousand. So,
all right, you two. Well, I appreciate you guys jumping on tonight. So and Chad, like you weren't even a judge, but you're still throwing in and 0369 Staff Sergeant 3 combat tours, giving your experience and perception. I appreciate you coming into the fight tonight, man.
Anytime, man.
All right, you two. We'll Semper Fidelis, and I'll catch you later.
Later, dudes.
All right. So we got the three of us. I don't like this orientation there. There we go. I want to self-identify as a square, not a rectangle. All right. So what else we got? That was salute report. I don't think there was really any deviation in weapon systems. I think everybody was packing an AR. Actually, there was one bullpup I remember seeing.
Yeah, there's one bullpup and, of course, the 1022, which I give the kid all the props in the world for that.
Yeah.
To have that much gear at 15 is impressive, even if your rifle is only a 1022.
Yeah. What else can we cover? And if you guys got comments in the comment section, questions you want answered about like judges or judging or just the contest in general, and now's the time to ask because we're going to wrap up soon. We're at the little over hour and a half mark. What was missing for hide positions? So essentially, contestants had two routes they could have taken. Like some guys had artificial stuff, right? They had a small cami netting that they were taking. That's great. They can use that to build their hides. Some guys had that or they had like a saw or something that they could use natural vegetation to help build their hide. So those were two things that we were really looking for. Like you're tasked with establishing a hide, an OP and observing a specific part of the trail. All right. So we were looking for like equipment for you to do that. Right. And like I said, some guys had cami nettings, small portable cami nettings. And then some guys had like saws, small handheld saws. Some guys had both. Like guys really thought this out. And there were some pretty impressive. If you didn't have either of those things, well, some guys had like one, like a ghillie something, like maybe it was a ghillied out boonie or a ghillie top, the fucking, I'm not a sniper, but whatever the hell they put over their upper torso and it clips on, it goes right over their blouse. It's like a cape. So some guys were thinking of it in that terms rather than building a hide. They're just plussing up their individual camouflage. So, but you had to have something along those lines, right? Because your task was completely observation. You guys have anything to throw in on that?
No, that was definitely something to look out for because it was so ingrained into your mission brief that you were setting up a hide and observing somewhere. So yeah, the people that came prepared to build their hide and or have natural camouflage definitely stood out quickly, and lack of having it was definitely also something that stood out right away.
Yeah, no, I agree, brother. But I'm gonna pop smoke as well.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you jumping on, man. Stay stoked. Tears of a commie.
Tears of a commie.
All right. Well, I'm not done, Les. I don't know if you're still up for the fight here.
I can hang with you, man. Like I said, this was a 2-man mission. We can handle it.
All right. So, we got some more questions. So, one guy said, was body armor a disqualifier? No, it was not. Absolutely not. I would say though, like, again, mission dictates, right? So what is the mission? Especially if your squad's pushing out to an area where they're going to establish a patrol base and you are tasked with, you and your buddy tasked with establishing and, as an RNS team, establishing a hide somewhere and observing a trail. Your job is to not be seen. Your job is strictly reconnaissance, observation. You want to be as light as possible. Me personally, I don't believe body armor is suitable for that mission. Can you wear it? Absolutely. But in terms of the mission, me personally, I'm gonna get as slick as possible. All right, I'm gonna take the least amount of weight as possible because I want to be. You want to be freaking, a sneaky squirrel, right? You want to be freaking Ricky Recon. You want to be able to move light and fast, get in, don't be seen, observe, and then get out. And if you start taking contact, well, you're popping smoke and getting the fuck out of Dodge. You ain't sitting there and fighting, or at least if you can help it, you're not. So.
Absolutely right. I mean, this is a mission where if you fire around, it's failed. And weight is going to be a factor for your movement. And I have found in all the patrolling scenarios, armor to me personally is more of a hindrance than a help. Because I'm adding massive weight to my kit for no real benefit unless I'm in a fight and take a hit in a specific zone. And especially in a mission like this where you need to get in and out of your observation area undetected and moving quickly and silently, most likely at night, armor is only going to be a hindrance because you're going to get all hot and sweaty under that armor. And the moment you stop, you're soaked and that cold is going to sink right into you, no matter how many layers, warming layers you have, because your gear is just going to be wet from sweat at that point.
Yeah, it's a good point. But no, none of us are anti-body armor at all. Like if I'm, if we're in the offense and we're conducting an attack, I mean, hell, if we're even just, conducting a regular patrol, I want that freaking, flat Kevlar. I want that protection. Absolutely. 100%. I just think me personally, like for this specific mission, I'm going to go as light as possible. And I don't want the flat, plate carriers and Kevlars and stuff like that. But that was not a disqualifying factor. So, and again, there were 7 different judges. Well, I mean, technically there was 8, but 7 guys that actually were able to submit lists. So you had 7 different opinions on this. So let's see what else we got here.
Well, if I could jump on the smoke grenade one real quick. If you're looking for smoke grenades for practice, the Mil X by Enola Gay. It's the closest thing I have found to an M18, and it even has a spoon and a pull ring on it. That is a pretty good simulator. We use them at One Shepherd all the time. They're pretty effective. Their price is not hateful. They're just all around a good choice, in my opinion.
I got a couple people asking about like, hey, what are our biggest critiques of like my entry, right? So somebody that entered, guys, there was 30 something inspections, and last time I did this, I was able, even though it was just me, but it was still a much smaller number. I would like to be able to get on here and go down every single person again. And then there were 7 different judges that were all, 7 different personalities and perspectives, right? Like John, for instance, he's more of like a armed prepared citizen, like civilian perspective, right? He did serve in the Army National Guard back in the day, but he's more of a armed prepared citizen mindset. I am an infantryman by trade. That's what I know. That's how I approach things, right? So our 2 perspectives might be a little bit different in terms of like how we look at things and what we're looking for. But we both breathe. You're both given the same mission, the same outlook, and from our respective experience, training and experience, how did we organize and critique things? Okay. You might be more of the mindset of John in the armed prepared citizen. Like earlier we had the guy that was saying like, oh, you guys, weren't looking at this from the Minuteman perspective. And well, honestly, that's not how the mission was briefed, right? You were part of a big army, right? You were part of a platoon, and your squad was tasked to do this. And then further breakdown, you were tasked to conduct this mission in a 2-man R&S team. So, it just went down to time, guys. There's 30 freaking entries. Every entry was at minimum like 12 minutes long. Most of them were within, I think 15 is like the time hack cut off. I might be wrong, plus or minus a minute or 2. But everybody had a time requirement, but there was no video that would have been under 10 minutes. So,
yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, of all these videos, everybody did really good. It was really hard to pick these out. I mean, yeah, Chad came in right in there number one. He made the top of everybody's list because he was pretty outstanding. But literally below that, it was small degrees of separation. I mean, there was never one that you looked at and go, no, glaring error, you're done.
Yeah. So one of the guys that like asked for a personal critique, he's like, if you remember the 30 plus videos. So like, I can tell you, like watching these videos, I watched every single one, guys, from start to finish. And after a while, they all, a lot of them start looking the exact same, right? Because a lot of people are approaching it the exact same way. So it's like, small things, stand out from here and there. So that's where it becomes difficult. That's when it starts coming down to like, hey, what does your salute report look like? What does your 360 look like? Is your rucksack a freaking gear bomb? Do you have, a bunch of straps hanging all over the place and not policed up? Like small little things like that help go into, picking, like elevating you in the position, because there are so many good entries.
Good point about the 360, Brent, because there were some people that great layouts, and then when they put it all on, it just didn't look right. Like I would suggest to some of you, like go do this again, pack it all up, and take a walk around the block. Go walk half a mile. That'll all it'll take for you to find out that pack's probably not riding as comfortably as you would like.
Right. And and some of that is like too much chow. So that's another topic, but like too much chow. So, it's kind of a slippery slope, because when you're in normal operating conditions, like, stuff that you can wear regular utilities, it's easy to say like, hey, I can really cut back on chow. I don't need that many MREs, or I don't need that many calories, this, that, and the other. But what are you going to be doing? Well, the mission outline was like, hey, you got to hike with all your gear. You got to move, I think it was like a mile to your location where you were establishing this hide. With all your gear, you got this ruck on. So you're going to need, calories for that, right? Well, then it's also cold weather. Will you burn more calories in the cold? So, that when I was looking at this, it's a little bit more in terms of like, hey, normally I would say, hey, that might be too much chow, but I was a little bit more giving on that. So like, for instance, what was his face? Citadel Defense. He got the 2 slot. He's a little bit further down on my list because he had so much chow, but it can start being justified when you think like, hey, you got to move. We got that movement ahead of us. Plus it gets down to that really cold temperature. You need more calories because of the cold. So I still would argue that he had too much food, but I give it a little bit more grace. Ideally for me, and I break down, because I'm a regular grunt, right? I break down everything into freaking MREs. I saw a lot of the guys that were like, hey, they were doing everything by calories, right? I'm going to taking this many calories. I have this fucking can of almonds, and it's, X amount of calories for the day, or whatever the case may be. But me personally, as a grunt, like, I'm looking at 2 MREs for a day's worth of operation. So if I'm going to be in the field for 3 days, I need 6 freaking MREs packed. So field stripped MREs.
And on that note, that I'm going to get dropped by on a jar of peanut butter. That ain't happening.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah, that was actually pretty common. A lot of guys do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's calories and everything, but you need something substantial. Like, one of the credit I will give the modern MRE over the Gen 1s that I had back in the 80s and stuff is you can eat a modern MRE and feel full. Gen 1 chicken a la king, you could eat everything in there and you're ready to eat another one because you just didn't feel full. And a jar of peanut butter, you're never going to feel full.
Another comment I'm seeing here is a ghillie suit in terms of like guys packing stuff. So we kind of already talked about this, like, your mission is reconnaissance, right? Establishing a hide and observing a trail. So, some guys had ghillie stuff. Like one guy had like a ghillie, suit. I think that was Edgar Garcia. Other guys like SF, Shit Hit the Fan Hunter. had like a ghillie boonie and stuff. Like
a cape
that was
almost,
all. Yeah, I mean, that stuff's good to help plus up your camouflage, but like I don't know, a full blown ghillie suit. That's going to be in addition to all this cold weather stuff that you got to take, right, to combat the wet, cold environment that you're going to be facing. So, I can see like a ghillie boonie, but having a full blown ghillie suit, I think would probably be overkill in terms of like, hey, I have to pack a fucking sleeping system. I have to pack all this cold weather shit just to survive, right? Just to survive to be able to accomplish this mission. So, me personally, a ghillie suit would be, too much. So,
and they're bulky. I mean, a while back on my channel, I did a test of a civilian store-bought ghillie suit, and that thing takes up a good significant chunk of space, kind of like your summer weight bag out of your sleep system. I mean, that's another thing you have to take out, volume.
So this is a good question from Joe, one of our winners. He said, what's the procedure for a 2-man team to watch the objective, pull security, and rotate sleep? I think it's a good point to chat about. So in this type of situation, you're going to have to go 50%, right? There's only 2 of you. So 50% means one's up, one's down. So if both of you are awake, there better be a good reason, okay? Because you're going to need a sleep cycle, and you can't have guys nodding off because your life is in the hands of your buddy. So it's definitely got to be 50%, right? There's not going to be a time where both of you are sleeping. That's asking for trouble, and that's not going to accomplish the mission. So that guy that's awake he's observing the objective, and he's also providing security, right? While the other guy's sleeping. So how many hours you designate, that's going to be on you. If you can do 1 on, 1 off, that means 1 hour on, 1 hour off. But I tell you right now, like that's rough. You're going to get to the point where it's like, dude, I felt like I just closed my eyes, and now it's already time to get back on watch. And it's like every time you go to sleep, that's pulling off your deuce gear. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're just throwing your poncho liner over you, but so I don't know. I'd probably do 2 on, 2 off, something along those lines. What are your thoughts, Les?
That's a tough call. A specific example is that one shepherd where we raided the Missouri militia, you and I, and screwed up their day. Came back, and I felt sorry for my guys who'd been manning the line, and they'd been up 5 or 6 hours. I'm like, you know what, guys, I'll take it. I'll take 3 hours, and then you give me the last 3 hours of the night. And I got to tell you, last hour and 15 minutes, I was using every trick in the book to try to stay awake. So you can take too long an interval. I totally agree with you. On the 1 hour on, 1 hour off, it does feel like the moment you put your head down that like it's time to get up again. And after a while, you're kind of like, I'm not even going to take my deuce gear off. I'm not even going to lay down. I'm just going to lay against this tree and wrap my poncho around me.
Yeah. And it might be one of those scenarios where it's like it's starting to rain, right? So it's like if you're off, like you need to get into your bivy sack, so you're going to have to probably take off your deuce gear.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say 2 on, 2 off. It's short enough probably to not be terrible. And 2 hours, is definitely better than 1. But that rest cycle is extremely important, guys. And you almost have to force yourself to rest during the day, because if both of you are up all day and then you start that rest cycle at night, it's brutal. Stand by.
Yeah. And that's a general thing. Start your rest cycle right away. That rest can be a priority of work. Speaking One Shepherd again, last semester we did out there at Alpha Company in October. Soon as I had my patrol base set, and everybody's positions were good enough, we started the sleep cycle, and that was like at 1500, and we kept it up through the whole exercise, and it really told at the end, because when we went back into the fob when the exercise was over, our guys were refreshed, everything was good, everybody was solid. The other side, who didn't have a good sleep cycle, they were falling asleep by 2:00 in the afternoon. I mean, you could tell who was on which team just by who was awake and who was in their rack.
somebody comment about, what are the other YouTubes? So again, if you haven't been watching the stream from the beginning, which is understandable, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. I'm going to post all the links I have of all the participants, and that's going to be everybody, with the exception of one guy who requested not to have his stuff public, which is, fine. And that's not to say that these other YouTubers or people that submitted videos aren't going to, make their shit private after this, but I'm going to post all of that. It's going to be in the comment section. I will pin it. It'll be at the very top. Let's see what else we got here. So one guy says he wouldn't mind doing these even without the whole competition prize thing. Could be a monthly scenario to pride creativity. Yeah, negative. So it's a lot of work, guys. These things are a beating. And the contest ended on 30 November, and we just solidified the winners yesterday. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Not only that, guys, I mean, we do have other jobs besides YouTube that take time, and you have to multiply those 30 entries by about 15 minutes each, and all of a sudden that becomes a very significant amount of time.
Was there a number one item that was too much or overpacking? Yeah, I mean, like kind of already touched on this, like chow. You can have too much chow. Believe it or not, you can have too much water. So that's the thing too.
There was somebody who had ridiculous amounts of water.
So it's like, remember, like, you got to carry all this shit. It's not getting fucking helicoptered or, dropped out of an aircraft for a speedball for you to pick up. Like, everything you take into on this mission, like, you have to carry on your back through arduous terrain, right? Mountainous was essentially you were in this mission. So it's just really, really looking after that weight, like too many warming layers. Like, you should have what you need to effectively operate and nothing more. Like, you're not going out there to be 100% cozy. It's like, Stoker brought this up earlier. Like, there's a suck factor associated with being a grunt, and you absolutely have to embrace that. Otherwise you ain't gonna make it.
You got to learn how to be comfortably cold. If you're toasty warm, you're probably doing something wrong.
Let's see. Already addressed this. Can we get a rundown of other participants' YouTube channel? Yeah, sorry, I already checked it. I'm having to like slow down the chat, guys, so I can go through these. One guy's asking if he can mention other Marine Grunts channels. Yeah, absolutely, man. Post them in the chat for people to see.
Yeah, well, Grunt's looking there. Another comment on water. Water is one of the few constants in the universe. The pint is a pound the world around. So water is 8 pounds per gallon. So there's nothing in the world you can do to change that. There's no lightweight water. So while you have to have water, and 2 canteens probably are not enough, taking gallons and gallons of water is something I would definitely recommend against.
So Will saying the chair got me, I'm sure. So hey, let me just preface, like, I am a big fan of the field stool. Like, if you would have gone to 20-something-year-old Brent 0331, I would have been like, fuck no, you don't need a stool, blah blah blah. But older Brent, dude, I take a goddamn field stool to the field with me every time. So no, you did not go down in my book on the field stool. Hey, here's where you went down, buddy. Go watch your 360, dude. You got your I think it's your machete is like sticking up way out of your pack. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? It looks like a goddamn radio antenna. So I would have hit you on that for sure. So, but there was some other stuff with you, Will. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was right now. But I mean, overall, it was obviously good. Obviously you got a lot of votes. So,
well, here's an interesting question: how would we exfil in this scenario? Well, if this is a mission that goes according to plan, i.e., you haven't popped off any rounds and you're in a running firefight for your life, you, just as you slowly came into your position and set up your hide, you would slowly extract yourself. You would collapse your hide, and then you would take an alternate route back to your point of origin or your pickup point, and leaving yourself plenty of time to get there.
I'm looking through comments too, Les. If you see anything that stands out to you, keep going.
Viability of the poncho and versus sound. When the rain's coming down hard, it doesn't work against you. A matter of fact, when the rain's coming down, that's my preferred time to move, because I can move fast, I can make a lot of noise, and my chance of detection is really low.
I see some guy, one of the guys talking about Alice gear. Like, no, man, if you submitted an entry and you had straight up 90s era old school freaking Alice gear, you were just fine. We had one guy, Ralph, the Navy guy, his was built on an Alice rig. Alice is not a terrible rig. It's a patrol belt. All right. If you look at modern gear and like the trends of what people are gravitating towards, like right now, a lot of it looks like updated Alice equipment. 100%. Look at it, you know. And quite frankly, you know, I'm falling in line with the Marine Corps' beliefs on this, that you know, China is our, you know, pacing threat and is going to be our next major conflict. Hopefully not, but it, you know, our opinion, it will. Well, where is that battle going to be fought? You know, probably some freaking isolated islands, you know, that are jungle-like. Okay, well, the shit we've been wearing in the GWAT is probably not going to fare well in those jungle-like environments. Think Southeast Asia, think Vietnam, right? Go watch videos of Marines training at the Jungle Warfare Center, and tell me how many of those guys are like wearing flak and Kevlar. Like most of the time, when I see the videos of them, they're wearing just the freaking boonies and deuce gear, or I can almost guarantee when you see them with their plate carriers on, a lot of times it looks like their sappy plates are taken out. That happens. I watch videos of Marines up in Bridgeport. Many a times their sappy plates are removed from their plate carrier. So you still have the protection that the old, you know, sorry, Les, the old Pasget freaking flax that he wore in Desert Storm had, but you don't have the sappy plates, the rifle stopping plates. So, yeah. Anyways, I say that to say that Alice gear is still applicable. A lot of guys still use it and they upgrade it, right? They do additions to it. Like when I go to One Shepherd, a lot of times I have Alice equipment, but I have like a dump pouch, right? I like dump pouches. I like having that dump pouch on my support side right there, you know, that can take my empty magazines out and stuff them. Or, you know, a lot of times when I go to One Shepherd, I have a camera equipment or something I keep in there real quick for easy access. So, you know, it's just an example of an upgrade to the old tried and true Alice equipment. Let's see what else we got here. Some guy said make your own MREs, and some of the participants absolutely did that, and it was very fascinating how they did that. So, seeing any less?
How should we approach dividing gear on a two-man team? Well, the easy way to approach that is weight. You know, you have a certain amount of gear that you have to have for you as an individual. Once it comes down to team gear, whether it's a two-man team, four-man fire team, or a freaking platoon, you divide up based on weight. So everybody's carrying about the same things. One of the easy way to do that in a big formation is everybody gets a belt of machine gun ammo. Everybody gets a mortar round. Everybody gets a spare battery for the 77. You know, that's one of the ways you can divide things up. In a mission like this, it can be like, okay, you carry the radio, I'll carry the night vision binos, because you're both going to use the same thing.
I see one comment here, and let me just preface by saying, guys, I'm really far behind on these comments. I had to slow them down to like read them because they're coming in so fast. But I see one. Any opinions on anti-track smooth sole boots for LERPs and stuff like that? I'm assuming he's like talking about old Vietnam stuff. You know,
Well, they don't really use them anymore, so that kind of is the answer right there.
well, so even so, like, you know, the footprint mold for the jungle boot for like MacV SOG, like my understanding is that was not widespread use. That might have been like tested and evaluated by like a team or two, and after that it was like, no, that's most of those dudes far behind enemy lines operating just wore standard jungle boots. So in my opinion, it just comes down to just your standard anti-tracking techniques, right? You don't just walk a straight line to your position, you dog leg, right? And you guys will see some of that in the SEER challenge video that I participated in. You know, you don't just go straight lines, you know, you dog leg, and, you know, that helps throw off a tracker. You know, obviously if you cross what's called a track trap, which can be like a bank or, you know, a trail or something like that. When you run across that, well, you're leaving footprints on it. So, you know, you take your branch and you know, disperse that sand back to its original fate, you know, manner to help stop from leaving boot prints. Or if you go through some bushes and you're displacing a bunch of bushes, you can like put them back in place. Like those are small things that maybe your Tailwind Charlie guy can do to help, you know, mitigate enemy tracking.
Comment here about chest rigs. And it's like, it's personal preference. I myself, for a mission like this, where it looks like I could be in the prone for an extended period of time, have my patrol rig set up to be all the gear towards the back, and my front is fairly slick, because there's nothing worse than a mag pouch or some other thing just jamming right up under your rib cage. And there's not much you can do about it. But that's literally a personal preference thing, because one of the things about your hide, when you get in position, you may be in the prone the whole time. You may have a nice hide where you're literally just leaning up against a tree the whole time, and then there your rig doesn't matter. So if you're a chest rig fan, go for it. If you're a belt fan, go for it.
Protect and persevere. See, I said it right that time, man. I remember. He said it was a E&E bag or something, a dumb to bring in case the mission went south. No, not necessarily. You just, like I said, you just have to like justify the stuff you brought. You need to justify, right? If it's outside the norm, like most infantrymen don't have E&E bags. Okay. So it's like, if you're going to go outside the norm, you know, just justify, you know, what it is. And some guys did that. So, you know, if you can articulate like, hey, I keep my fucking waffle top in here with this gear, and it's quick and easy for me to grab in the case that I got to ditch my ruck in the event of, you know, total mission failure or whatever the case may be. Right. So 100%, you know, on you, good initiative. So as long as you could explain that in the video, I think guys, you know, were on board with that. So, and I actually got a new Crossfire pack. I haven't even like dove into it, but it's an Arctic pack. I'm taking it to Winterforge, but it came with like an E&E bag. I've never used that concept, so I've got to experiment with it. I have to look at it. What else we got?
Why are pews bad? Well, this is a reconnaissance mission. If you've got a pews near you and the enemy trips it, they know you're there, and you just alerted an element that 99.99% of the time is going to be bigger than you. And if that pews goes off and like you're the guy on guard duty, great. Your buddy stuffed down his bivvy, all snug and warmed, trying to dry out. He's kind of screwed, because there's no way he's getting out of that bag and into his gear to run away.
Yeah. So like, think this is, you're in an area where the enemy's not expecting you to be, right? If you're putting out those early warning devices like that, like you're kind of making a big footprint because you got to walk into those areas to establish those and then walk back. Well, then guess what? You also got to retrieve those pews in the event that you're leaving. And you're increasing the possibility of an enemy stumbling on those, like Les said. So, yeah, I would, in this particular mission that we briefed, I would have left the pews out as well.
Counter when our pews good? Well, in the defense.
Oh, yeah.
We set up a defensive perimeter for expecting a deliberate attack on our position. Yeah, I want to litter the place with pews. Another time was, Brent and I, we were doing a mission at One Shepherd, and we had to maintain a line against ambush and stuff, and we put pews out, and they worked, and they were very handy because we were basically stationary. But yeah, a mission like this, pews would not be good. They'd be detrimental.
All right, guys, I think we're going to start wrapping it up. So if you guys got some quick last-minute questions, you can go ahead and post them now. And while we're waiting for those, I'm just going to remind everybody that I will post immediately after this live stream all the links that I have for all the contestants' submissions, so you guys can go and watch those videos yourself. And again, we were just blown away at like the thought that people put into this. Just because you didn't make one of the judges' lists doesn't mean you didn't have a great or good entry. It's just we had to pick 8 guys out of 30 entries. I mean, it's not an easy task, guys. So, let's see. Yeah, field jacket liner is still a great piece of gear. 100% agree.
Oh, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
So, everybody talks, those of you guys don't know what a field jacket liner is, everybody talks about like the poncho liner, right? And the Army cats and dogs like to refer to it as a whoopee. Well, your field jacket liner, was the liner that goes inside the M65 field jacket. And it's made out of the same material. So the same stuff that makes the poncho liner great, is what makes that field jacket liner great.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see.
Sage asked, "What's a pew?" And that's a perimeter early warning system.
Okay. All right, guys. I think it's a good stopping point. So if you've hung in with us for the last 2 hours, hey, appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed this live stream. We had a great time doing this competition. With that being said, no, we're not having another one anytime soon. The last one I did was, I think I hit 100,000 subscribers. And this one was when I hit 500. So probably the next one will be like when I hit 1 million, hopefully. So it's a lot of work, guys. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that, we had fun doing this. And I hope those of you that participated, and again, the participation on this was fantastic, right? 30-something entries, phenomenal. Wasn't expecting it to be that big. You guys can absolutely go and check out all of those entries and, view them for yourself. And maybe, put together your own list of, what you had done. Again, we had 8 judges. 7 judges were able to submit, their orders of precedent from 1 to 8, and from all 30 people, we had to rack and stack them. And first we went off of, who got votes, regardless of where they were in that top 8, who got votes, and that went from 1 to 16 of guys that got votes in some capacity. And then I had to go through and say, okay, who got the most votes? All right. And then racked and stacked them 1 to 8. And then from there, we had multiple people that had like we had 4 guys get 4 votes, and 2 guys get 5 votes, and 2 guys get 6 votes. From there, I had to go, okay, where did they rank in those lists when they got those votes? And then I had to put them in order from that. Okay. And from that, we got 1 through 8. So it was a weird dynamic because it's like, Chad Edgar's our number 1, but he definitely wasn't number 1 on everybody's list, right? But Chad Edgar was on all of the lists in some capacity. and nobody else was on all of the list in some capacity. So that's how we got the winner. So I think that was the best way to do it. But if you are a winner, guys, you're 1 through 8 guys tonight. Again, I will be reaching out to you via email and figuring out what you want. So I appreciate all the channels that participate in it. Be sure to support them. Please go over to their YouTube channels and show your support by liking and subscribing to their YouTube channels. And if it wasn't for those guys, none of this would be possible. So I'm going to put them up so I can just read them off again. So you got Grunt Proof, you got STOKERMATIC, you got Renaissance Marine, you got UW Gear as also Alpha Charlie Concept. He's got 2 different channels. You got Christopher Larsen's channel. That's his channel's name. You got S&S Training Solutions. And then you got Les over here with Pegasus Tests. So I will have links in the description box so you guys can go to all of those channels. Les, you got any final words, man, before we call it quits?
Yeah, real quick. Coming up on my channel this Friday, I'll have the FTX video from the Bravo Company One Shepherd semester in September. That'll be a nice culmination to that series. And then starting just a couple weeks away, I'll be covering everything from Alpha Company in Missouri from October. Also, you have the ability, if you head over to Practice Score or InRange TV, to sign up for Midnight Brutality, which is a night vision match. Going to be super stoked. It's being held at Echo Valley Training Center. This is a night vision match. If you only have white light, you can participate. But unlike your average night vision match, this one's going to be very complicated. You're going to be doing complex tests at night. I can tell you, you will be firing from a vehicle using your nods. You'll be doing military-oriented tasks the whole time. Don't want to give too much away. But you're going to have your skills tested, both physically and your shooting skills, all while doing it at night. So I encourage everybody to sign up for it. It's going to be a great contest.
Awesome, Les. So I'm gonna plug my channel here and then call it quits. So if you guys haven't noticed, I've been a lot more busier on YouTube lately. I'm trying to increase my channel's performance. What I mean by that is, I've got 500,000 subscribers, but most, not all, but most of the videos I post get less than like 6,000 views on. So when you compare that to some of my peer channels that, kind of focus on the same type of content, like gun related channels and stuff like that, my channel's not performing at the same level, but not by a long shot. So I am trying to actively increase that by putting out more content. So we'll see if it works. I don't know. I'm going to try a whole bunch of new stuff, but that's why you're seeing short videos and more videos from me. So appreciate those of you that hang in the fight and have supported my channel for a long time. So let me end by saying, well, first, let me say, go watch the damn Christmas video, goddammit. Viet Cong steals Christmas. How the fuck is that not successful? That video should have millions of views right now. Freaking Viet Cong fighting Santa Claus. For God's sakes, how is that not awesome? So, anyways, rant over. Go watch the damn fucking video. All right. So, once again, congratulations to all the winners, and I will individually be reaching out to you guys here in a little while to figure out what kind of prizes you want. So, thanks for watching, guys, and have a good night.
Later.